All right, good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed the nice weather over the weekend, the nice weather today. Looks like we've kind of made a bit of a turn. Some rain here and there, but looks like it's going to be 50s and above for the rest of the week at least, so that's always nice. A couple things to point out before we open it up to questions. Discussion about AP exam and which date you sign up for, whether it's the May 11th date or the June date. It's the anticipation of College Board, from my understanding, and we're going to have some more meetings with the AP teachers from Rochester, Adams. I think on Tuesday or Thursday we have a meeting, but it's kind of their intention that you take the May 11th date so that June is your fallback in case things go poorly. Bad connections, you're logged in and you find out that something isn't compatible, or who knows what kind of electronic and technological issues you might find. So their intention is for you to sign up for the May 11th date. That way you have a makeup date. If you sign up and you say, I'm just going to do the June one, and something bad happens, you're done. You don't get a second chance. So that's, I believe, their intention. Doesn't mean you can't just say, you know what, I'm not going to take it in May, I'm taking it in June, and put your eggs in that one basket. You can do that. I mean, all you have to do is log in on May 11th and just not turn it in and say, oh, I tried, and you can kind of make up any story you want. But just be aware that's how they anticipate using those alternate dates, is simply as a backup, because they've never done this before with thousands upon thousands of students descending upon them electronically on May 11th. Who knows what's going to happen? So my suggestion would be, do yourself a favor and plan for that early date. That way you have that fallback. We've been done with all of our content for a while now. It's been since the first day of spring break was when it was posted, so you've had all of that. At some point, just continuing more practice is not going to offer up any more benefits. So my suggestion would be, you know what, you've done it all. You spent a month studying up, literally a month, I believe it would be. So you might as well take that early one. So that's just my 2 cents. You can obviously take it or leave it, whatever you want. So with that, you have an assignment posted for the week. 5.1 it is. There's nothing new to post for your AP preparation, your UTs, all that stuff. Keep on working on that. If something is closed out on you, ask. I'll reopen it. And then, okay. So sounds like my video is a little bit goofy. Sorry about that. It's only for the better, rather than seeing me up close and personal. So the newest one is on magnetism. So I've narrated the notes. I've got a few Google form questions to ask. So you can either do the notes and then do the questions first if you want, and see what questions you have to answer. Whatever, your call. But that's posted for this week. And I will be here today. I'll be here on Wednesday at 10. I can do individual Zoom meetings, whatever it is you want. Just ask, and that's where we're at. So with that, I think that's it. So at this point, are there any other questions that you have about anything? Whether we're doing some online questions or magnetism questions or AP exam questions, or no questions at all? Of course, you can use the chat, or you can use number 3 on review 6. Okay, so there's been a question about number 3 on review number 6. So give me just a moment here. So number 3 on review 6. Review 6. Let's open it up. And there we go. All right, so All right. So in looking at this one here, we have number 3. So we have a conducting sphere of radius r, pardon me, conducting radius r, charge positive q, that's the sphere on the inside, a conducting spherical shell, inner and outer radius, and a charge. So I don't know how they're going to vary your question, if they give you different charges or different radii, but going with my example here, I've got 3 different radii given. I've got 2 separate charges given. So in looking at this, identify the electric field versus the distance from the center r. Okay, the unit of measure on the vertical axis is a multiple of, okay. All right, so in looking at this, first thing I see is that when I am inside, because I'm told conducting sphere and a conducting shell. So everything you're seeing in blue on my screen is a conductor, which means that when I'm inside a conductor, the net electric field is going to be 0 because of how the charges build up on the surfaces. So I know that from 0 to r and from 2r to 3r, those are going to have to be 0. So I can look through and I can kind of eliminate. Looks like those are always, so I don't need to worry about that one. So it looks like the question is going to be, so this one right here, the electric field I have at 3r versus at 2r. Here, a greater field at 3r. Here, a much greater, okay. Here, slightly lower, slightly bigger. So basically, it looks like they're all the same. The only question is, how does my electric field compare at 2r to 3r? Let's take a look at 2r. They give us a value of just a little bit of 4, a little above 4, a little above 4, and a little above 4. So again, and a little bit above 4. So the only difference between every single one of these is where our graph for 3r is going to begin. So, pardon me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my little sheet of paper here. Pardon me, I'm sorry. So I've got k q enclosed over r squared. So that is going to be the equation that I start with. So when I am at 2r enclosed, I have q, so there's kq, divided by r. That r is going to be 2r. We're going to square that, so it gives me a 4r squared. So I can't see myself on my screen because I'm sharing, but the thing is that you can kind of see there. This right here is my equation. And so at 2r, enclosed charge is q, and then 4r squared, I suppose that should be a big R to be proper, capital R squared. So that's what I have there. At 3r, my new total enclosed charge is going to be 4q. So I'm going to throw that up front, a 4q. And let's see, we're going to divide that by the distance, which is going to be 3r quantity squared. So I get r squared there. So what I see, and I'll come back to share in just a second if needed. So what I have here, and I still can't see myself, of course, because of the way the screen's working out here. Let's just go back to this then. Sorry. So what I have is I have 4, I don't know if I can see my face speaking, I think you can. So I have kq over 4r squared is the electric field at 2r. At 3r, I end up with 4kq over 9r squared. So basically, I am going to be comparing 4/9 and 1/4, comparing them together. So in looking at our screen here, so I have, what do I have? I've got an ending value of about 4. So the unit of measure on the it'll measure on the vertical axis is a multiple of KQ over 18 R squared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this one into 4/16. I'm going to turn this one into 8/18. It's a fraction I don't think I've ever said in my life. 8/18. All right, so now what I have here, and again, you should be able to see my screen, I think, is I have my original converted into, I realize that I don't have this as a denominator of 18, but it's close enough. So about 4/16, or exactly 4/16 is about 4/18. Looking at my screen, that's exactly what I have here, 4/18, roughly. And so this one right here is going to be 8/18. So I need to figure out which graph starts at 8. This one seems to start at 8, so I think that's going to be my answer. This one starts at 4, definitely not the answer. This one definitely starts well above 8, closer to 10. So I like question or answer 1 better. This one here starts at about 6. 8 is definitely, or number 1 is definitely closer to 8. That one's down below. So I see an answer of this first one here, and it looks like I'm correct because of the numerator being 8 in my example. So just in case my screen share didn't allow you to see what I had written out, there it is right there. The equation at 2R and at 3R, I have enclosed charge Q, or a total of 4Q. And then last over here, this is me converting it over to a slightly common denominator. So that would be question number 3 on review assignment number 6. Others you'd like to do? Questions about any of the things that we've done? All right, well, could I do number 1 on review 8? Review 8. Opening, opening, opening. Here we go. Okay, so let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so here we are. Pardon me. Here we are on review 8, question number 1. It says design a parallel plate capacitor. So that's just a capacitor. The 2 plates are going to be held parallel. That's why it's called a parallel plate capacitor as opposed to spherical or a cylindrical. So parallel plates, which is the capacitor that most of us should be thinking about when we do this. Air in between, so that gives us our permittivity of free space right here, 8.85. That is for a vacuum as well as air, because air is so close to being a vacuum. Let's see. That can be charged to a maximum potential difference of 18,000 volts, or 1800 volts on mine. What is the minimum possible separation between the plates? So I need to know what electric field is going to be my max, because there is nothing to stop me from taking a 1 million volt source and connect it to this capacitor. What happens if I get too much voltage? I'm going to get a charge jumping from the positive plate to the negative plate. If we look at conventional current, I'm going to get charge jumping between the plates. The reason charge doesn't jump between the plates is because we have an insulator. We can still force charge through an insulator. You just have to push really, really hard. So the question is, how hard do we have to push to get charge jumping through air? It says the dielectric strength of air gives us a number, volts per meter. That's the same as a Newton per Coulomb. This is an electric field value. So they have told us when we look at a dielectric strength, you're given E, you're given the electric field. You're told this is how strong your field has to be to push charge through this particular insulator. If you were to add different dielectrics, that number would go up. So I have my E value right there. And let's see here, we are trying to look at the minimum possible separation between the plates. Okay, so I have my electric field is 3 times 10 to the 6 volts per meter. So I have my equation right there. That equation says our electric field is equal to the voltage divided by the distance. So for question number 1, I can take my voltage that is given. We don't want to exceed 18,000, or we want to be able to hold 1,800. I keep saying 1,000, 1,800. And let's see, we have an electric field given to us as 3 times 10 to the 6th. And so we end up getting a value that's going to be pretty small, and they want it converted into millimeters, it appears. So I get about 0.6 millimeters for mine by taking the voltage I want and dividing that by the electric field that would cause our capacitor or our dielectric to fail. Question number 2, what minimum area must the plates of this capacitor have? So now that we know what the distance is, I have a capacitor equation. I've got capacitance is equal to epsilon naught multiplied by our area divided by the distance between the plates. So we have just determined what the distance between the plates is. So I've got epsilon naught given. Area is what we're trying to solve. Down here is a distance, use meters. Here is my capacitance. They're giving us microfarads. You're going to want to turn that into farads. And you'll calculate what the area is in meters squared. And it looks like meters squared is the desired unit. So you don't need to do any conversions after that. All the conversions are going to be at the beginning with the microfarads. And you already had an answer in meters before converting to millimeters. So you just take your standard distance. Oops. Here we go. All right, so that was question number 1 on review number 8. And off the top of my head, I don't remember when these things are all due. If a due date comes and goes, you just ask. You don't even ask, you can tell. But it's nice to say please, I guess. So.